you, of course, represent the demographic dividend that we all hope to reap. The question is, what's going to make it a true demographic dividend? And I think we need four things. One is infrastructure, to create the kinds of jobs that many of you will do. We see some infrastructure being built behind us. There's a lot actually happening in India at this point. We have some enormous projects, projects that will make the Chinese proud. The Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor, for example, the Eastern Freight Corridor. You've just seen the opening of the Mumbai airport, but there's a lot more to come. In many ways, infrastructure is the easy thing to do if you put your mind to it. And unfortunately, we haven't got our act completely together in the past. My hope is in the next few years, we will bring it all together and we will get the kind of infrastructure we need to create the jobs that we also desperately need. So number one is infrastructure. Number two is human capital. You represent the highest quality of human capital that we have in this country, but of course there are many more people, and I want to talk a little bit about that later, who haven't got the kind of education, the kind of training that many of you have. And we have to work harder at it. We have done a lot. Today, 100% of, nearly 100% of kids in the early stage of schooling are in school. The quality of our schools, for the most part, are quite mixed. And we need to improve the quality of those schools so that kids stay in school and actually learn. And of course, in that process, we shouldn't neglect the quality of our universities as well as the quality of our vocational colleges. So number two is human capital. I'll come back to that in a little bit. Number three, and this is something that I think we need to push much harder, is we need an easier environment in which to do business. Now, clearly, it's extremely important that we respect the environment, that we do ecologically sound development. It's equally important that we respect the rights of underprivileged sections of society, including tribals who are perhaps the most deprived part of our society. But in doing this, in respecting the natural habitats of the tribals, for example, or respecting the rainforests that we have, we also must see that there is a trade-off between growth and the environment. The trade-off should not go entirely one way, nor should it go the other way. You will, on occasion, have to run a pipeline through a forest. You will, on occasion, have to run a road through a forest. We have to make sure that we protect what we can in the best way we can without holding up development forever. That's one set of things that we have to learn, and we have to do it better. We haven't done it as well as we should over the last few years. But we also need to think about the thicket of regulations we've inherited over time on factory regulation of one kind or the other. And we have to see, do we really need it all? What don't we have that we need? We need better regulation, not more nor less, but better regulation that allow many of you to start businesses overnight and to build the kinds of fertile, innovative businesses which will create the jobs that the rest of you can get over time. So we need an entrepreneurial culture. We have the elements of an entrepreneurial culture. Lots of Indians going outside flourish. We need it here. We have some of it here. There are wonderful examples of success stories in entrepreneurship in India. We need many more of them to create the jobs for the youth of India that will emerge. And fourth, and that's the part where I come in, we need better finance. Finance that reaches everyone. Finance that enables a migrant laborer in a remote part of India to send money back to his village at low cost. Finance that enables everybody to have a bank account. Everybody to have a safe savings product, a place where they can earn real returns on their investment. So we need to do all this. In the last few days, I've been exposed, or I've met a variety of young people. Last week I was in Bihar, where we went to a remote village where I saw a small hostel, girls' hostel, where the kids were girls from scheduled caste, scheduled tribe families who had been brought to the hostel because otherwise they would be withdrawn from schools. They were obviously with the consent of their parents, but they were there because it offers a safer environment for them to learn. And this school was heartening in the sense that the teachers were very concerned about their students. They wanted to give their students a better future. But clearly the level of education that one could obtain in a school like that differs very much from the kind of education that many of you have obtained. And what we have to do is work to see that that kid in that school who came to me and said, I can't go beyond 8th grade because that's the last grade in the school. And beyond that, I don't have a father, I don't have a mother, I don't know what I'm going to do. We need to give that kid a future. We need to find out what kind of future we can give that kid. So that's one part of it. A couple of days later, I was in perhaps the best school in Delhi. I say that because that was my alma mater, the Delhi Public School, R.K. Puram. And it was amazing the kind of facilities the kids had and the kind of talents that were on display. They did a show, fantastic. We were never remotely as good when we were kids. So moving from a school which was probably catering to deprived students and probably has a long way to go in terms of reaching the frontiers of education, to a school in India which is at the frontiers of education. The change was tremendous. It was heartening to see that we are capable of providing that kind of education. At the same time, one had to think about what we're doing for the rest, and we have to do far more. The third place I went was yesterday, where I attended a Times of India function where there were 900 kids. And it was amazing the kind of questions these kids asked me. These are kids from 7th grade to 9th grade, extremely intelligent questions, questions which reflected not just an India-centric view, but a wider worldview, which was really heartening to see in young children. And today I'm with you. And my sense from these interactions, and I can't claim to be an expert on the youth with just these encounters, but what I can say is, apart from the usual cliches, the future of India is in your hands, but I sense an energy. I sense a yearning to do better, to do far better. And I also feel confident that in the years to come, the opportunities that will face you will be tremendous. The world is your arena. And the real question you will have is really what you want to do in that arena, what path you want to choose. In the past, we had more limited paths. It was doctor, engineer, and pretty much nothing in between. But today, there are so many careers that open out. It's not just jobs in India, it's jobs outside. You can do anything you want. And the question that I think you will be asked, or you will have to ask yourselves in the years to come, is what kind of country you want India to become. We are clearly a democracy. The institutions of democracy have strengthened over time. The questions that democracy is asking of our governments, our leaders, the questions have become tougher, necessarily so, and the system is reacting to those kinds of questions. So I have no doubt that we will be a fertile, vibrant democracy. But you also have to ask, what kind of country do we want to be in the larger span of nations? Do we want to be a country that is internally focused? Or knowing that in the years to come, when you become my age, that we will be one of the 2 or 3 largest economies in the world, how we will exercise our power. Will we exercise it responsibly for the greater good of humanity? Or will we be a power which says my way or the highway? Those are things that we have to think about. Those are things that you will have to think about. And I hope in the time to come, you will be able to think about it in the right way.
Raghu is a soft voice, willing to speak against accepted doctrine, says Ben Banaki. How do you manage with such an orthodox and conventional Indian government system? Because I know you're fairly creative in your ways of functioning.
Oh, I'm orthodox and conservative.
I don't believe so.
No, really, you know, the truth is I never learned economics.
Right.
By the time I studied economics in graduate school, I was spoiled. I didn't know the classical stuff.
Yeah.
So I tried to understand everything from a first principles perspective. You know, does this really make sense? I tried to teach myself. And that sometimes leads you to ask questions.
Right.
There is this orthodoxy, this is how it works.
Yeah.
And you realize a lot of it is based on models.
Right.
And people forget their models. They think models are the real world. And so they stop questioning those models.
Right.
So I think sometimes not knowing is a good thing.
Of course.
Start asking questions, and that's useful.
You know, economics. You said that you were not a student of economics, you know, when you started. A lot of people here, they tweeted to me that, you know, we find economics very boring, but this dude is very interesting.
But this
dude is very interesting. So do you think that economics, if it were not taught the way it is in our colleges, could actually be interesting? And what would your recommendation be to NCERT when they're designing the curriculum?
See, first, my wife tells me I'm very boring. So, you know, truth is, there is nothing like a good teacher.
Right.
To spark your interest in a subject. And there is no subject that is difficult, that is beyond the capabilities of a good teacher to explain. Sometimes the problem is teachers understand it so well, they don't understand why people there don't understand.
Yeah.
So this is really the first point that I was making, that all the assumptions are so strongly ingrained in their mind. They don't understand that they have to explain those assumptions to people and why they make sense. A colleague of mine, one of the most brilliant macroeconomists in the world, John Cochran, I think his lectures are brilliant. But they are brilliant because he says, I'm really very stupid. I don't understand anything, so I got to start working at it. And when I've explained it to myself, I can explain it to somebody else. So my sense is there's no subject which is really boring. Even accounting is not boring. Accounting can be made very interesting. It's more finding a way to explain it which engages people.
Right.
So I hope, you know, India truly needs good economists. I hope some of you will actually forego those wonderful careers in banking and do a master's or a PhD in economics and come back and work for us, work for the RBI. I can promise you an exciting career.
Well, you say that, but you're here for a couple of years. I remember going to meet your predecessors, and I don't think I could have a conversation with them like I do with you. So it brings me an interesting question. You say that you want more young people to join the RBI. I met the head of SEBI and NSE. They want young people there. What changes do you think must be made in the infrastructure of our system to attract people like here who will say, no, I don't want to be an advertising professional. I don't want to work for a bank, but work for Raghuram Rajan?
Well, I think two things. First, I'm not here for 2 years. We'll see how long I am here.
Okay. I said couple.
Look, we have to. So the old version of a job was you get in at age 21.
Yeah.
You carried out at age 60 or 65, right? Actually, that's a harsh word. I think we retire people too young. In this country. They retire at 60 when they're at the peak of their capabilities. But let's say it was a career for life, 21 to 60.
Yeah.
These people are not thinking about 21 to 60.
Yeah.
They think 21 to 23 or 21 to 25. At best 30, because 30 is really old.
Yeah.
Right? My kids, my daughter says, 30? Right?
Yeah.
She can't imagine being 30. So many of you don't see, I think, beyond that. So what is it that we can do that makes a job interesting till that age? And I think it has to be learning. You have to learn new stuff on the job. It has to be an exciting job, which makes you more capable of doing stuff outside. So that you can always leave when you want, but you are a better person as a result. You've had experiences, you've done courses, you've learned from your peers in the job, and that makes you really want to do it. So I would say that many of our institutions need to move away from promising careers. You can have your career if you want.
Yeah.
But we have to go towards promising you experiences.
Yeah.
You will have a very interesting time making a difference at an early age. We're not going to put you into training for the next 5 years. We are going to give you the capacity to make a difference very quickly, and you will learn, you will be able to act.
Before I throw it open to the House, 2 important questions that I've been asked to ask you. Given that it's the election year, what's the ideal government going to be like? What kind of government will Raghuram Rajan vote for? I don't want the party. I
can't speak about politics.
Of course.
As a central banker, I have to stay neutral. I mean, to the extent I can say it, it would be a government which focuses on creating the growth and the jobs that people not just here but around India need. So we need a government that will energize growth, but of course carrying the mass of population, so like creating capabilities in these segments of the population that don't have those capabilities. So we need both, but a government that can do that is a government that will be good for India.
Lastly, 3 things that you think should be the immediate focus if we are to achieve the dream of all-inclusive sustainable development.
We need good practical environmental protection as well as protection of some of the weaker segments of society.
Okay.
When I say that, I mean not impossible laws, nor laws that are disregarded, laws that are effective. So that would be one for sustainable growth. 2, we need broad-based movement amongst society. If one segment of society is getting the growth and the other segment of society is paying for it, that won't work.
Right.
We need everybody to see opportunity and growth. Right. And I think there, across the world, the universal answer is better education and skill building. We need better education and skill building so everybody can participate in the opportunities that are thrown up by the more vibrant economy we will have.
Hi, my name is Mitolita, and I want to know what your position on Bitcoins is. There are a lot of younger companies trying to get into this technology, and then we've kind of taken a very negative sort of outlook to it. So I'd just like to know what you think.
I think we're still framing our views on it because we're trying to understand it, just like many of you are trying to understand it. But we are saying that just be careful. Be careful when you use Bitcoin, understand what the ramifications are, and caveat, I mean, you have to be cognizant of all the potential risks, and there are some which we've outlined in our statement. That is not to say we're not against innovation. I have to tell you that in the last few weeks, there are some very innovative proposals on payments that we have actually licensed and will soon be coming to an ATM near you. So we're not anti-innovation, but we are a regulator, and we have to warn the public about the potential dangers of some of these innovations, such as Bitcoin. We can go into the details of the circular we put out, but I think perhaps I should leave it there.
My name is Varsha Krishnani, and I'm trying to refer to this point that you made that in the next 5 years, the government or you people who are running the country will make the circumstances in such a way that we can actually make a change. Now today, if me and my friends think of making a change, we'd rather be like, hey, let's be a little selfish, because something that takes 2 years to be done in some other place or in a more organized system will take 8 to 10 years in my country. Why should I waste my life when the people who are there in the system don't really support us to make that change. So how do you say that you are going to help us make the change in the next 5 years?
One of the things I think is implicit in your statement is that change is a public service. But change is also self-fulfillment. It's a very selfish thing in some ways. You come to make change not because you're doing good for everybody else, but it's part of who you are. And that gives people who spend the 10 years you're talking about the willingness to fight the system, to make a difference. Because to some extent their imprint in the sands of time are really out there. So I think we need to move away from this view that doing public service, fighting for what is right, is self-sacrifice. Maybe there's a little. By all means, you're giving up on family. You're giving up on the good times others have. But it's also part of who you are. And just because other people aren't doing it, if you feel you want to do it, you should do it. Because it brings out the best in you. It makes you a better person. It sort of develops you. So don't think about development as something outside. It's also inside.
Thank you, Dr. Rajan. This was very candid. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Peace.